take a look at this fly on the screen here, and this fly is the one that I start off with, and it's the one that's been consistent right from the very beginning. It catches fish right from the time they start to rise for the flies till dark. They'll hit this one. The problem with this fly is keeping it afloat. The fish will hit it on almost every pass, but if it's not floating up above the water's surface, they won't hit it. If it's down below it, you might get an occasional hit or two, but I noticed that once it starts sinking, and it's really tough when it's raining out there to keep it afloat, but once it starts to sink, they won't hit it, even if it's just in the surface film, and that little foam piece keeps it in the surface film.
So are you going to Sacramento?
What I do to start this one is I'll start the thread about midway on the shank.
Oh, I guess I should put the hook in.
Okay. Then you take your piece of foam with your scissors, cut a really small angle on the foam piece, like that. And then you tie it in, facing backwards. You want the meaty part of the foam right over the bend of the hook. Now you take the hackle and clip off that little point on the end there, and then you want to strip off. You want to strip off about 5 or 6 of the ones on the tip, so you have just a little tiny tip there.
So you're tying in this just a bare stem?
You're tying in just the bare stem.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Tie it in right at the base of the foam piece. And tie it in real good, because you don't want it to come out.
Tie it on top of the foam or alongside of it?
Alongside of it, doesn't matter. On top is okay too. Now, with a rotary vise, I can turn the fly sideways like this and get the dubbing right next to the hook shank. You need a very, very tiny amount. I'll show you. It's about that much. You almost can't see it.
About a third of what I have.
Really small, because all you're going to do is spin it on the thread, just like that.
Spin it on the thread.
And make it a little bit like a noodle.
There you go. Good girl.
Okay. Now I'll put the dubbing. I'll run the dubbing back up right to the foam, right up against the foam, and then underneath the foam and the hackle.
Okay, hang on a second.
Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the dubbing right under the foam and the hackle, just kind of going in and out, and that's about the right spacing on
Between
it.
the foam and the hackle, huh?
2 turns.
Yeah, just make sure that it's covered with dubbing front, behind, and underneath. Take a look at it. There's a big space between the hook eye and the dubbing, and the reason I put the foam over the back end is because the back end of the hook is the heaviest part, and it doesn't really matter to these fish. It's so small I don't think even they can see it, but they can tell it's a floating fly of some sort, and they hit it. So now you need to take your hackle pliers, and you might want to watch me first on this. Take your hackle pliers, pinch the tip of the hackle, and then make about 3 or 4 wraps around the post. Okay? And once you get that situated like that, then you take your thread and you wrap it around the bottom of the post where the hackle is. Underneath the hackle, if you can tie it off there. And this is where you need the whip finisher. It might be easier to cut off part of the post right now so it doesn't get in the way. But you take the whip finisher and you go around the hackle on the bottom underneath.
That's why the whip finishing tool,
Yeah.
because half it just won't work there.
Just like that. Okay? And then you cut your thread off and cut off your hackle. And then I like to trim the tip about the size of the body. You can always cut more off, so leave it a little bit long. Cut more off if you need to when you're fishing it. And if it's too big, fish aren't hitting it, just clip it down a little smaller. But you want to be able to see it, and that post allows you to see it in the water. Now, where I'm fishing, there's a lot of foam in the water. When the foam collects around it, you can't see it at all. So I like to fish it about 18 inches from a small indicator of some sort, a little piece of yarn or something tied onto the line. I tried fishing it closer, but it seems like they wanted at least 18 inches to about 2 feet away. You get too far away and you don't see the hit. You get it too close and they won't hit the fly at all. It spooks them or something.